Guys, I'm really happy to welcome to the podcast Tim Ballard. He's the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, and his life story is now a remarkable new film called Sound of Freedom. By the way, you can go to the website soundoffreedommovie.com. By way of background, Tim Ballard spent more than a decade working as a special agent for the Department of Homeland Security, where he was assigned to the Internet Crimes Against Children, the ICAC task force, and he was deployed as an undercover operative for the U.S. Child Sex Tourism Jump Team. He's now part of Rescuing Children as a founder and head of Operation Underground Railroad. Tim, welcome to the podcast. I mean, what an experience. You joined the Department of Homeland Security. Talk a little bit about when you first became alerted to the fact that something very wrong was going on.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so I got into Homeland Security investigations. I was sent to do more money laundering and some terrorism cases. And in the early 2000s, we weren't talking about human trafficking. No one knew how big it was. And then they asked me to get into the Internet Crimes Against Children. So this was kind of end users. That's how it began. We started catching these guys downloading material of children being raped, and most of the footage we were seeing and seizing was from overseas. And then in 2006, George W. Bush signed into law the Adam Walsh Child Protect Act, and that did something really unique. That it eliminated a previous statutory requirement that an American sex tourist, if they're going to leave the country to go overseas and engage in sexual activity with a child, that they had to, before 2006, they had to have that intent and idea, and you had to prove that they had that intent while standing on U.S. soil. That was eliminated with the passage in 2006, and so that opened the doors for us to really go in. And I speak Spanish, and so they sent me as an undercover operator. They trained me up that way, and then that's when things really, to answer your question, blew my mind, because now it was time we could actually start seeing the kids, from the videos. And I didn't realize until I got to these developing countries how easy it is to access them. So that was the opening. And so what you're saying is that there has been evidently for a while, right? Because this precedes the early 2000s. Who knows when all of this got started? But you're saying that in other countries, there are large numbers of children who are apparently made available to Western and maybe specifically American tourists who go to these countries to have sex with them. Absolutely. People don't realize here in America, we like to sit back and think, oh, this stuff's happening far, far away from me. But what people don't realize is we are the number one consumer of child rape videos almost every year. We're also in the top 3 for destination countries for human trafficking. I spent 10 years of my 12 in the government on the border. And, I can tell you how why we're the number 3 in destination countries is largely due to the Biden-Harris disastrous policies on the border that is facilitating human trafficking. And so we are the problem. And when we go overseas, foreign governments, they like to use us as undercover operators because we are Western-looking people, are what traffickers in foreign countries are looking to service. So we have great success in infiltrating those criminal organizations.
Now, what happened with, was this a case where the Department of Homeland Security was fully behind you in your efforts, or were you being somehow restricted or blocked in any way?
So what happens is they would send me overseas, and you know how bureaucracy is a difficult thing anywhere. And I don't blame any of the agents or even my direct bosses. It's more of the system, the bureaucratic system that ties everybody's hands. But they would send me over as they created something called the Sex Tourism Jump Team. And that was the team that went overseas looking for Americans who were abusing children. The problem is, they give you a week, 2 weeks max, and we'd always find the kids. But if I couldn't find that nexus back to the U.S., in other words, if I didn't show up undercover at the same time, same place that the American was going to be there, and so I made the argument like, well, let us stay here, let's rescue these kids, and then we'll go back. We'll get digital, we'll get computers, we'll seize stuff, and then find the Americans. And that was too creative for a giant bureaucracy. And so what happened in 2014, I mean, I had been pulled back so many times, it was breaking my heart. It was like, I'd make myself the bait in an operation and then have to leave. And in 2014, I was sent down to Colombia and Haiti. There's two different cases. The film just focuses on one, where I got myself really involved, really neck deep. And then they said, come home. And I said, I'm done. I'm not coming home. I can't do this again. I got too involved. And so I just took the leap of faith. My wife and I just said, well, let's just see what's going to happen. God will protect us, somehow figure out how to feed our family. And so that's the story of Sound of Freedom. Is I quit to finish the case. And it ended up being one of the largest rescue operations ever recorded. And that's the basis for Sound of Freedom.
Now, describe Operation Underground Railroad. You quit the government. You decided that their bureaucratic strategy, hey, send this guy over for 2 weeks, and then you have to abandon the project or at least pull back from it, perhaps at the very time when you're about to make a breakthrough. What are you now able to do in the private sphere through Operation Underground Railroad that you couldn't do before? Talk a little bit about the success or effectiveness of your mission now.
Yeah, thank you. So it's if you privatize something, it always is bad. It always does the job a little better, I feel, just because you don't have those restraints. And I run two organizations. One's Operation Underground Railroad. The other one was founded by Glenn Beck in 2014. It's called the Nazarene Fund. It focuses on persecuted Christians and religious minorities. It does similar work. I run the Nazarene Fund. I'm the founder of OUR. So, but what we can do here is we can move in ways the government just can't move. I mean, I remember having to get 5 people to sign off just to get on a plane and fly to a foreign country, to be able to just to have a lead or an inkling and just jump on a plane and go. For example, just last year, we went to Ukraine to help orphans who were in the war zone. We ended up rescuing all these kids there, getting them out of the war zone. And while we were there, we found this Dutch ring of pedophiles who were trying to traffic children out of Ukraine. And so we tracked them. They were in Holland, they were in Mexico, they were in Ecuador. So, and there's a docuseries coming out called The Hidden Wars. It's produced by Tony Robbins. That's going to tell this whole story. But the point is, I mean, I could spend 2 hours telling the story. It's crazy. But we blew through 6 countries, 3 continents, rescued hundreds, maybe thousands in preventative rescues, took down an entire pedophile ring, all in 4 months. I would never be able to do that with the bureaucratic restraints, because we get a lead, we're on a plane to Mexico, then we're here, then we're there. These guys were heading into Miami. We caught them going into Miami. But we work with governments because we don't have the badge. We provide the really good cases and intel to them, but we can coordinate with 6 countries at the same time in ways that they're not able. So we basically are a force multiplier. We support law enforcement. We don't replace law enforcement. So we're like the red phone, the bat phone that they can pick up and say, I have a bureaucratic problem. I need $2,000, or I need a plane ticket, or I need this. I need to help move this survivor, and we're on it. So we work very well with my former agency, Homeland Security Investigations. We're very close partners with them.
Terrific. Let's take a pause. When we come back, more with Tim Ballard, founder of Operation Underground Railroad. And basically his life story is the focus of the film Sound of Freedom, which is now out. The website soundoffreedommovie.com.